Who is that?
Warahmatullah. Welcome to this second session. Inshallah, in this session, Faraz is going to go through uh, hospitality of an amazing sustainer. And we are looking forward to this beautiful presentation. And it's up to Faraz to either take questions throughout the presentation or at the end. So I will leave it to Faraz, as Birkan did in the previous session. The stage is yours, Faraz.
All right, well, assalamu alaikum everyone. Peace be with you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right. So, are you still able to see my screen? Or did I minimize?
Yes, we can see your screen.
See the screen? Okay. So, the topic of my presentation is hospitality of an amazing sustainer. And it is really what I want to do is share some verses from the Quran with you and my interpretive translations of those verses. And I hope that we can reflect together on these verses. The only, the couple of things that I want to add from my side before we start reading the verses is something that just came to me. It's not something that I necessarily think that all of you need to concern yourselves with or worry about. If it speaks to you, what I say, if it resonates, if it benefits, take it. If it doesn't resonate, just leave it. It's not crucial, but it is important to me, so I share it with you, which is that there are a couple of things I want to mention here. There could be more, but a couple of things I want to mention here, which I want to say could cloud our access to the Quranic guidance that might make the guidance of the Quran seem not immediately accessible or beneficial, especially when it comes to things like the idea of a paradise, the idea of an afterlife and reward. And so I want to start by sharing these two kinds of things that I think can cloud our vision. The first, I will just call it, these are just names. They're not good names. We can, what the cloud of expertise or the cloud of specialized domains. What do I mean by that? I mean that it might be that when I think about the stars, I think that's the astronomer's job to study the stars. When I think about the human cell of the human body, or a liquid or a fluid of the human body, I might say, okay, this is something really a biologist or immunologist or some other expert studies these things. And when I think about materials like iron and wood and other things, I say, oh, these are the engineers who study these materials, and so on. This idea, it has its value. People study different things. So this is not, I'm not trying to, I hope the scientists will not get offended. And discussion won't go in that direction. That's not my intention. But the idea that when I go to the Quran, it seems to mention a lot of things that I feel for myself. Sometimes I tend to think of them as specialized domains, and people in those domains and experts in those domains, they are going to worry about this. They are going to study them. And that could be one way I kind of put a distance. I might end up putting a distance between me and what the verse is talking about, and that might cloud my vision or my ability to take what it's saying for myself as a guidance or as an answer. And of course, I want to say that I shouldn't do this. If I do this, if I don't do this, it's great. But if I find myself in this way, sort of putting a distance between things that I'm not into, well, this verse is talking about the stars. Well, I'm not into stars. These are people who are into stars will think about it. So that I can do that, but again, I would end up putting a distance, in my view, unnecessarily uh, between me and what the verses are talking about. The bottom line here is that what Suhail has already mentioned nicely, that the verses in the Quran I approach as revelation, bringing me news that is for anyone who cares to hear or listen to that news. So I should focus on what the news is being brought to me, uh, and not apportion uh, based on my idea of how disciplines of knowledge are broken up in my world, and not apportion the verses of a universal revelation into that scheme. The second remark I want to say very quickly is, again, if it doesn't apply to you, you can leave it, but I find it interesting in myself and around me. I find that complex things, complex stories, exceptional things, heroic, inspirational stories, they grasp my attention. But quote unquote simple things don't. And I find I can ignore them. So, for example, I find people are more interested in the anti colonial struggles of Algerians and Libyans against their colonial powers than they might be about the tree across the street or the tree in their backyard. It grasps the attention more. It is more a subject of topic of discussion, a more engaging and moving discussion to speak about the Vietnam War, for example, or some early event or some contemporary political movement. These are very sort of complex, engaging, exciting things we tend to focus on or can focus on. Uh, and the plant, the fruit that I eat, the water that I drink, these are simple things. That's not doesn't engage or excite me in the same way as the Vietnam War does, or something like that. Racism or anti-racism or and so on. Now, of course, it would be misunderstanding. It would be a misunderstanding if you thought that I was saying that wars are not important or we shouldn't learn about what happened. That's not the point. The point is there's a difference in focus in my world. When I come to the Quran, I have my own things that I find pressing, urgent, what I prioritize thinking about, a great story in some literature, history, politics. Um, and what I want to say, a bit provocatively, is that it is perhaps because of a certain kind of boredom and a lack of exciting meaning in what I actually experience day in, day out, that I actually turn to these things as tranquilizers, as inspirational, moving things, and they grasp me. These stories, I want to kind of lose myself in these stories or get inspiration with these stories and narratives, to get excitement, to get feel that there's life, because otherwise it's kind of boring and dead. Um, and um, so whether that's the case or not, I just wanted to raise in this point, this highlight that one of the ways in which I could be clouded from receiving revelations news is because I am busy with all kinds of other news that are uh, that actually tranquilize me to a more a deeper and more profound understanding of my own existence and its many problems and its many um, issues that then become the basis for an urge or a need for guidance. So I just want to highlight this before we talk about paradise. Or the topic really that I wanted to share was gardens of paradise. We will eventually get to them, as in the Quran and as in my presentation. It is something eventually, uh, God willing, we can get to. But um, just first a word about these clouds of the first one is a cloud of expertise or domains, and second is the cloud of, you can call it the cloud of politics or the cloud of consequential knowledge, like what I think is worth knowing, literature, history, politics. This is what I find myself more interested and excited about than the tree in my backyard, for example, or my own semen, my own sperm, for example. That's not really a subject of reflection, an exciting subject of reflection for me. So that that expectation is thwarted when I approach the Quran. The Quran is super interested in the tree. The Quran is super interested in the water and focuses on it, repeats it again and again. And so it would be quite natural for me to feel a bit like, you know, I'm not into nature. Like, okay, there are some people who are very like into nature, and um, I'm not. So I find, if I take this approach and just take it to be valid, then I will put a distance between those verses and myself. I wouldn't really know what really is exciting about it and what to make of it. Uh, Relatedly, I should say that we do. A lot of people do take interest in nature as as a beautiful escape, a beautiful, calming, pleasing, refreshing um, thing that you can go to recharge your batteries and then recharge them to go back to living as I was living before I came to nature. So our use of nature, what we call nature, the tree, the sky, the bird, is very much fits into our own vision of what our life is, very stressful and very urbanized, and very, if it is urbanized. Uh, and nature is the great escape. Nature is the great recharger of batteries. And I employ nature and natural interactions with nature in this way. I find nature great and beautiful and calming and so soothing and so, and then I get this kind of experience from nature and go back, recharge myself, and go back to living as I was. And this is something that I feel is another kind of tranquilizer I need to be careful about. The aestheticization of nature, the using this word as an aesthetic experience, as a sort of sentimental, I don't know, uh, calming, the wilderness that calms and releases my stress. But this is not how the Quran to me presents what I call nature. That's not why the Quran is interested in it. And I need to be, just, I think, for myself, I need to be careful uh, not to cloud my access to how the Quran is talking about these things by my own sort of these my own reality before I've approached guidance or revelation. All right. So anyway, those are the framing points. Those are not the focus of the discussion or the presentation that I want to share. Um, so let's, with that in mind, I wanted to discuss or share with you, not discuss, share with you verses from Surah Waqia, but not in the order that they are presented in the chapter, but in the reverse order. Uh, and that is because I feel myself, I'm not used to reading Revelation in a way that I engage with it, so that when it says something, that I will say, how can you say that? How is that possible? I don't read Revelation this way. I have too much reverence for Revelation. So I just read it and say, okay, this must be great, and this is great, and this is great. And so that what then I don't get that the message in the same way. So in order to account for that, what I think we can do, we can go to the parts where the Quran has expected me to already have questions, or about something it has already said, and now it is trying to answer those questions by raising a set of its own questions. And so we will first read these questions together, or these, and then hopefully we reflect on them, and then based on that we can come back to what the Quran claims. Oh, it's just become Yusuf. No, no, Isa. Okay, I'm sorry. He thought this was just like a 3 or 4 people on the screen, and I'm just having a chat with friends. But I told him there's 34 people here, so sorry about that. There's something in the chat, but I guess okay. Sorry. um, okay. Uh, let's go to the verses. I can't find the screen myself now. Here. So I will just read, and my interpretive translation, maybe here and there a comment. Now I ask everyone to switch in the reflective mode, really, because I'm not going to give you any information, and I'm hoping that we can just reflect on what this text is saying. This is revelation from the Maker, my Maker. What it is talking about? What is it asking me? Have I asked these questions? Will I try to ask these questions and answer them? Aisha Noor says, can you repeat why you are reading in reverse? Yes. Reading in reverse. Well, not so much reverse, but I'm jumping to some verses further down in the chapter, and then we'll come back to the verses more at the beginning of the chapter, because I find that we can read it in the real order if we are going to be like really ready to say, like, how can you say this? Where is this? What do you mean? And then by the time we come to these questions, these verses, we are actually uh, are hungry to confirm what we encountered. How is this possible? Is this possible? But in general, we don't find ourselves in that way. We just kind of read and not try to confirm. So just to kind of, for this purpose of the presentation, to make it a bit easier, we can go to the questions first, the evidence first, and that will maybe encourage us to say, okay, these are the questions that are relevant if I'm going to take the news that was given to me in the earlier verses, and it's given again in the later verses. So the order is not really, it's not the key question, really. I mean, it's really, I could have read in the real order. I'm just justifying my choices by making an excuse. So just forgive me. But I think you will see that it's helpful to read the questions, and then go back. And it goes to the approach that everyone is familiar with here, that uh, anything about the unseen will be confirmed as a news about that unseen based on what I see. But what I see is different from what the Quran wants me to see in the same thing that I see. So how I will see, the Quran is going to ask me, how do I see what I see? Uh, so that if I see it this way, the Quran is going to argue really, then I will be very comfortable accepting the news it is bringing me, the news of eternal hospitality, the news of eternal sustenance. This news will be very acceptable to me if I saw what the Quran wants me to see. But I don't see. So I I am just thinking now together, and really exposing ourselves to the Quran and saying, hoping that after this session or whenever we read something like this, we will actually go and see in the way the Quran is asking us to see. Uh, all right, thank you for your question, Aisha. And so what we read in Surah Waqia, which says later in the chapter, I think I say verse 50, chapter 56, verses 57 to 64, I think, but please check the reference numbers. It says, نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون. We have created you. Would you not confirm this truth? أفرأيتم ما تمنون. Have you ever considered that which you emit? I think it is understood as the emission of fluids, semen, or something like that. So, like I said, the Quran is interested in this. أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تُمْنُونَ. Have you considered what you emit? So, I haven't much, so maybe I should. أَأَنْتُمْ تَخْلُقُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْخَالِقُونَ. It's a question for me to think. Is it you who created? I'm being asked. Or are we creating? نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت. We have decreed death to be among you. وما نحن بمسبوقين على أن نبدل أمثالكم وننشئكم في ما لا تعلمون. So it says, we have decreed death among you. I see that. But there is nothing to prevent us, or the bragging, I can say, is there something to prevent the one who has put death here from changing your kind, amthalakum, your nature of your existence, however you want to say, into وَنُنْشِئْكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, to bring you into a condition you do not know. So I understand from the couple of verses, what is the condition of existence I don't know? I don't know a condition of existence without death, without limitations, without transience. I experience this life transient with death. It is among me. But the one who has put death among me is saying, do you think that the one who is able to make death and then, I guess, make life after death, Is there something that would prevent such a one from making a creation without death? If death is a creation, could he not make it without death? Why? What makes me think he couldn't? He can't. I have to think about it. If death is under his determination, if I can see this, that death is somebody's determination, then what reason I might have to say that it is not possible for such a one to give an existence without this limitation of death? All right, it's a question. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ النَّشَاةَ الْأُولَى فَلَوْلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. And you know the first making. So it says, what does God want me to know? Not the Vietnam War, not racism. It says, Alimtum an-nashat al-ula. So I have to ask myself, do I know the first making? The Quran saying, you know the first making. So what do I know about the first making? Would you not reflect about it? Would you not bring it to mind? Then says, asks, أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تَحْرُثُونَ. Have you considered the seed that you cast upon the soil? I don't think any of us have cast any seeds upon any soil, or maybe unless you're a farmer. And it's not in my interest. Maybe I'll go to Lowe's and get some seeds and throw it in the soil. Um, but it is interesting to notice that that's the revelation is speaking. God, of all the things He's asking me this. فَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تَحْرُثُونَ. I should see the seed that is cast upon the soil. Asks a question. If it was clear, there would be no question. Shouldn't be a question, right? But the question is there. أَأَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ. Which one do I see? How will I see? Is it you who cause it to grow? Or can you see that we are growing? Which one do you see? Which one do I see? Who's growing the seed? How does the seed grow? Who's growing it? وَنَشَأَ لَجَعَلْنَاهُ حُطَمًا. Were it our will, we could turn it into chaff. فَظَلَلْتُمْ تَفَكَّهُونَ. And you would be left to think, إِنَّا لَمُغْرَمُونَ. Oh no, we are ruined. The seed went bad. Good question, Mariam. That is what I should think about. It's referring to whoever is growing it is saying is we. So I have to say, is somebody growing it? The question Mariam asked was, what does the text mean when it says we? Who is it talking about? And the answer is, it is talking about the one who is growing the seed, but the one that I don't perhaps see as growing the seed. So it is talking about the decision, who is growing the seed? Whoever is growing the seed, that's the we in the text. So it says, when Nasha, was it our will, we could turn it to chaff, and you would be left to think, oh no, we are ruined. Bal nahnu muhramun. We are deprived. We have been deprived. Mahroom. We are mahroom. We are deprived. I have to think about, is the seed being caused to grow as an alternative to deprivation? That is possible. There is nothing necessary that it must be so. Do I realize that the seed doesn't have to grow into an orange or a tomato or anything else? Do I think it has to? What about the seed makes me think it must, it has to? It will grow into something. What? What power of the seed, what knowledge of the seed, what compassion of the seed makes me feel this way? I have to question, I have to ask myself, why does the seed? Could it be that if it was not made to grow in this way, I would be deprived of it? Maybe it's the verse is saying, do you realize you are not deprived? And so do you realize that it's actually you are given something that you could be deprived of? Have you ever thought about the tomato in this way, that you're holding in your hand, that you didn't have to, just because you paid $2 at the store, that that is not entitle you to the seed working for you to grow into a tomato? It can't. Can it do it? Though I have to ask, because again, these are questions I have to think about in the context here of the afterlife. The verses are going to relate all of this in this chapter when you read it to the idea of the possibility or the certainty of sustenance beyond death. So the Quran's argument is going on, starting with your, so you create, who created you, who creates death among you, and this kind of creation, who's doing it? You think it's happening, or do you think somebody's doing it? Of course, it is saying, I am doing it, we are doing it, but do you think, do you see? Uh, your first existence, where you came from, the fluids that you emit, who makes it? Who makes a seed grow? Yeah, these are not my questions. These are I'm just repeating in my words. The Quran, which we are here thinking this is revelation from the Maker, and we are here for guidance. It asks me these questions. All I'm saying is we should feel asked these questions. They are, my Maker is asking a question. He's not joking. These are not, or I mean, I can take them as jokes, but then I will get, I'll get a laugh, and that's all I'll get. But if I say, no, these are questions for me, he's asking me. So, do you feel asked this question? So, I shouldn't jump to asking my questions. I should be asked these questions by this. I'm being asked. So, I should be in the position of the person who is asked these questions. What's your answer? I should go and come back to the Quran with some answer to these questions. Inna lamughramun. So these are the people now saying, I'm saying, are you not this person who, if the seed didn't grow, wouldn't you say I'm ruined? Didn't you have some expectation that, oh, you needed it? Didn't you need it? Bal nahnu mahrumun, we are deprived. Continues. Faraitum alma, have you seen water? Allazi tushrabun, that you drink? I have to answer. Afaraitum. Don't answer me. Go and answer your God if you think he's speaking here. Afaraitum alma allazi tushrabun. Antum, antum, antum anzaltamuhu min al-muzni am nahnu al-munzilun. Is it you who cause it down from the clouds, or is it we bringing it down? Okay. I'm asked this question by this text. This text that tells me news of the existence of paradise asks me this question. He says, Antum azaltumuhu min al-muzni am nahnu munzilun. What's the answer? So it is asking me. I'm not asking you what's the answer. Our maker, if he's speaking here, is asking us, what's the answer? He's assuming I can answer it. He is assuming that even if I'm not into nature, I'm not into rain that much. I don't really like it. That doesn't change anything. He said what he said. He asked what he asked. Either I take it or leave it. If you are going to answer this question, you have to go think about the water that I drink. Is it coming down, or is it I am bringing down? Again, how do I bring down? How would I bring down water? What kind of question is that? Who says I bring down water? I should ask these kind of things to the text, and then I will come to say, you know how I bring down water? I say, I know how water comes down. The clouds send it. That's how I send down water. I give the explanation. When it is my explanation of how the water came down, I brought down the water. Of course, otherwise, who says that I brought down the water? Nobody says that I brought down the water. So I have to think about the text and not treat it like a silly joke. It is asking me to, if I'm going to take it seriously, then I should take it as seriously as possible and see if it makes sense. So this makes sense. I bring down the water by saying how the water comes down. That's my bring down the water. It comes down because it falls from the clouds. The water cycle takes it. The natural law throws it back. The nature is working beautifully to provide water. That's how I brought down the water in my world. That's how the water came that I drink. Of course, God says, yeah, if you think this way, what are you sustained by? Which life giver, which generous, which wise, which host, what hospitality? Think about it. I have to think about it. He says, وَنَحْنُ الْمُنزِلُونَ. There is somebody willing, decreeing for you to sending this water, sending it, with which you drink, with which so many things, all the things, these are, tips, as Nursi says, and these are tips of icebergs. These are pointers. With water, all the things that are related to the water coming down, I can think about. Who does that? Okay. Questions. These are questions. Antum anzaltumuhu min al muzni, from the cloud. So, of course, a superficial level, if you read it, the Quran shuts its door. So, if I read this verse, let me see what the Quran is saying. Anzal tumuhu, do I bring down the water? Oh, what a silly statement. Nobody, I never claimed I bring down the water. Nobody, no human being ever brought down the water. This is a silly text. Let's ask silly questions. Yeah. If you expect silliness from it, you will get silliness. But if you are, are open to questioning yourself, your reality, the maker speaking, then I can find that. You know how I bring down the water? Yeah. Because I don't see you sending it. When I don't see you sending it, it's as if I brought it down with my own explanations. Okay. Low nasha'a. Now again, keeps giving me things to think about. Were it our will? So this is a question for me thinking, must it come down as it comes down? How? How can I be, what guarantee that I have? What evidence is there that it must only could have come down this way and not other way was ever possible? There is no such guarantee. I found it this way, so I say this is normal or rational. There's nothing logical about it. The Quran asks me to ask this, think about it. It says, if we willed, we could make it burningly salty and bitter. So I look to the water and say, is it bitter and salty? It's not. How is it? It's pretty nice. Why should it be that way? Why is nice water scent? What is the intent? Why is why send not salty when it could be, but the other one, sweet and nice? Why? Why then do you not be content and grateful? Falaula tashkurun. Somebody sending it this way so you can appreciate it. Why does he want me to treat me? Why does he want me to, or does someone want to treat me in a way that I would be happy? Do I see this or not? Is someone treating me in a way and saying, I'm treating you like this so that you can be happy, so that you can feel treated really well? Because if I gave you bitter and salty, you'd be like, oh, somebody's not treating me well. But do you see that I could have done otherwise, but I didn't? And I send it this way. Why? So that you can be grateful, so you can be happy. And why then? Why then am I not grateful? I think about it, it says be grateful. I'm grateful. Why am I not grateful? And as if it's my comments in brackets, it's if God is saying, I know why. There is a reason you might have, because you think it's just there. It's just natural. It's just water coming down. Like there's no will behind it. There's no intent behind it. There is nothing indicated of some news about it, about what is the unseen. I know you don't feel that way because you don't hear any news for the of the unseen. And what the seen, I know that it's all passing. And so you have a sense that you will be deprived of it anyway, even how good the water is that you drink. It's all in the end passing, and you're anxious about it. Your spirit is. But how about if you could look at this and you saw that I am your sustainer, I am giving it to you, and it is in my hands, it is with me. So you won't be deprived of it. How about you think of this rain that you won't be deprived of? How do you feel then? Can you then be grateful? Would that be okay if you were not to lose it and actually get it in eternally in most perfect form, whatever that you're getting here? Would you worry, or can then you be thankful? I have to ask. Continues. Afara'aytum annar. Have you looked at fire? Or do you let the engineers study the fire and the heat and the carbon molecules and so on? Or have you looked at the fire that you kindle? أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون? Is it you who brought into being the tree that serves as its fuel? Or are we the cause of its coming into being? Or we made it? So think of fire. I'm asked to think of fire and everything I do with fire. The heat, the light, the cooking, everything. Who made fire? And what does it do for me? So who's serving me? What are they trying to show by making fire and making it the way it is made? I have to ask, did I make it? Again, who says I made fire? No one at the superficial level. But we all make fire by saying what it is, it's carbon molecules, whatever. It must do this, it must do this. This is the natural law for combustion. This is this law of combustion. And we say, this is law of combustion making the car run and making me travel. So I make the fire. Anyway, that's for us to think about. You don't have to agree with me, but if you really think you made the fire, well, here's God telling you you didn't. So now you have your answer. uh, Nahnu ja'alnaha. The next verse says, it is we who have made it. Why? How should I? What is made for in the Quran's view? Tadhkira, tadhkiratan, as a reminder, as a sign. Who have made it a means to remind. Remind who? And as what? وَمَتَاعًا, as a provision. As a provision. It's gonna be of use to me for something. For what? What is it used for? Well, it's used for cooking, for example, fire. What is the cooking of the fire to be used for? What does it means? What does it means for? What is it means for? So I have to ask. It gives a hint. And I like Muhammad Asad's translation. I have many times problems with Muhammad Asad's translation, but I still think it's one of the best English ones. But this one I really liked, so I kept it. The other are also from Muhammad Asad, and I changed here and there. But this one, he says, a provision for all who are lost and hungry in the wilderness of their lives. It's beautiful. I didn't change this one because Muqween is, sometimes desert travelers, the people traveling in this desert, wayfarers. Yeah, literally, yes. But what does it mean that this is tazkira? All of what has been said, that we have made this. What am I going to, what is the Quran's idea of what I'm going to get? Tazkira. Reminder. For what? For whom is it a reminder? Those who are hungry in the wilderness of their lives. What makes, so I have to ask, is there a wilderness in my life? What is the wilderness of my life? When do I feel abandoned, forlorn? What makes me feel that way? This is the solution to this. You think life is abandoning you, you think nobody is going to take care of you. You just check the weather and think the rain came. That's why you don't, that you are in the wilderness. You don't have any host who has any intention of taking care of you. But do you see, I'm asking you all these questions so that to put your attention to do you see? What do you see? What is your answer? Just be comfortable. Answer comfortably as you see. Answer. Be comfortable. Look at the what you experience. Be comfortable. Get an answer. And come and then hear the news that I'm giving you. Then tell me, do you find it compelling and very reasonable, or you don't find it compelling or not possible? So we should do this. We should, I should answer these questions. Before asking my own questions, I should be questioned by my maker. And I should not just jump ahead and ignore this, but I should answer these questions. Because when I answer these questions, the one speaking here says, when you answer these questions, you will hear the news of a paradise that I'm telling you. I will describe it to you, and we are going to now move on and actually read it. We don't, and it is on us to match up what we see in the world with the news of what we don't see, what is talked about. It's on each of us to make that choice and judgment and evaluation. Is what I see compatible with what is still spoken about as the unseen? Is it reasonable? Is it possible? Is it certain? I have to make that investigation, look at answer the questions about what I experience. What do the news I get? Is it consistent with the news about the unseen, which is paradise? Okay. It says, then the Quran says, فَسَبِّحْ بِإِسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْعَظِيمِ. They say, glorify God. I translate it as, go and find flawless the perfection of your sustainer. It tells me, it has the confidence or the guts to say, you will find this. Go and find this. You need it, and it's there. Your sustainer's name is limitless, flawless. The created things are not limitless and flawless, but your sustainer's name you will find there is flawless. Go and find this limitless sustainer. I end this section of the surah here. I don't know how I'm doing on time, Yusuf. I want to just keep going. Is there time, or should I rush through? What do you
Oh, we have like a 35 minutes. So I guess you are on time.
Okay.
Make a comment. Like I was planning to raise hand, but since I opened my okay.
Please go ahead.
So one thing attracted my attention is, which is very related to what you said about this, like when Quran talks about nature or a tree or a water, we shouldn't take a position, at the attitude that, okay, I will look at the tree as a botanist, or I am into nature, I am into water, I am into engineering, so I will take this attitude. So all the verses that you listed, so when, for instance, the Quran says, have you ever considered fire? It follows by, have you ever considered fire that you kindle, that you use for burning or to do something? Have you ever considered water that you drink? Have you ever considered seeds that you put on the soil, in the soil? So there's always this one-to-one connection between the thing that we are supposed to consider and how they are reflected or how we experience them in our own life as a person, as an individual. So as you said, it's not about being part of a certain type, but just being like a person, like a first experiencing thing from at the first hand. As an agent that I should expect the approach to the creation. I shouldn't look at the fire as something extraordinary by itself, outside, external to me, but I should look at the fire as I benefit from it, as I use it to illuminate my night or cook something. I don't know, maybe I'm not making any sense, but I just wanted to highlight that.
No, don't say that. You made beautiful sense to me. Uh, Mania, mashallah. I think that's excellent. You highlighted this. Thank you so much. It made a lot of sense to me. Mashallah. It's very nice. Very interesting. Very interesting. Things that I think just ordinary, I have no real, they're not the center of my attention. Well, the Quran is very interested in these. So, um, but in this way, as you said. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting verse from Fussilat 41:30. And the next presenter is talking about angels, I think. So, but before we get to paradise in the next final section of the presentation, I wanted to read this verse and just think about it and ask us to think about it now or later. Because we will read a description of paradise where also there will be peace, and where there will be angels saying peace in other descriptions. So there's many descriptions in the Quran. So I just picked one in Surah Waqia. Even in Waqia there are multiple descriptions. So, but this verse is interesting. It says, "Inna allazina qalu Rabbuna Allah thumma istaqamu." Indeed, those who truthfully say, our sustainer is God, which we understand. Nothing is sustainer except God. And then stand firm upon this truth. These are my translations, interpretive translations. That you mean it. You actually live in this way, that your sustenance is now coming from the one. It's not coming from other things that are going and passing and limited, but it is now I'm istaqamu, I am really taking my sustenance from the sustainer. How the Quran describes it is very interesting, because clearly this is, for me at least clearly, is here and now. This is not something that's going to happen in the hereafter. This is the description, because I mean, of course, if you say all of this setting is happening in heaven, in heaven people will say Rabbun Allah, and then in the heaven God will send on them angels. Okay, then that's how you read it. I have no idea how you know that's true, but Inna lazina qalu Rabbuna, if it's here, if I'm someone who is Rabb is the Lord, and I really took my sustenance from this one, what is the outcome the Quran describes? Is very interesting. Like what I should see happening, or what I need to confirm. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمْ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. We descend upon them angels. And if you are not complicating the matter, it will explain to me what it means by angels. Because it explains to me, as Birkan you said, experientially, as the person, what will I feel? When will I say, what is the person's, my description of me, when the angel is being descended upon me? It gives me that description. So once I get that description, I can confirm, okay, this is the state of me that the Quran describes as angel descending on me. What is that state? Allah takhafu wa la tahzanu wabshiru bil jannati allati kuntum tu'adun. What is this person who's taking sustenance from his Lord? They don't um, fear not, la takhafu, and I have in the bracket my fear not what you don't fear, all the things that were making you afraid about existence before realizing that your Lord is the one who owns everything, that He's your sustainer. Don't fear any of that you were fearing. I know you were fearing that you might lose your lives, that somebody you lose what is beautiful, you may lose what is good, you may lose what is compassionate and gentle, you may lose. You fear all of that. None of that when you fear, because now if you're taking your sustenance from Him, now don't fear. This is the angel descending. What else? Grieve not, la tahzanu. This is also angel descending. Why? Because don't grieve all that was making you grieve before you realize that your Lord is there, merciful, generous, taking care of your needs, showing that He intends to take care of my needs, demonstrating it. So don't grieve the things that you grieve. This is when you don't grieve, what's happening? Angel is descending on you. You are now with me. Angel is what takes me to Him. This way. Speaking in emotional terms, don't grieve, don't fear. This my emotional state is the descending of angel. And what else? And so as you realize who your Lord is, this is my like adding words, receive the glad tiding of the garden. Now, when you find the Rabb, then you receive the glad news of a garden which is being promised to you. Allati kuntum tu'adun. The promise is being made where? Here. The promise is here. For what? What is to come. So, do I see the promise being made? When I see the rain, when I see water sent down, when I see the fire burning, the water I drink, the seed I emit, the semen I emit, and with it life comes in this creation, do I see promise of life, promise of eternal life? If I see promise of eternal life, I will see, it says, if I qalu rabbanullah thumma istaqamu, if I actually said it and actually took the sustenance that I'm getting from Him, not from the things, then I would find myself hearing the tiding. So the relationship between paradise here and paradise there is, here it is the news of what is to come and a promise. It is a news. It is real as a news of what is to come. It's not the thing itself, but it's the news in similar terms. So now, finally, very quickly, please hold your thoughts and questions or comments I would like to hear. But just in the interest of time, and we don't miss out the description of a very desirable, enticing place that my Maker says to me when He doesn't have to really, but speaks to me in the terms that the way He made me and makes me understand, and I can relate to it. And I should ask, is there anything here, the news of which I am not hearing? Is anything mentioned here, the news of which is not already here in my reality? I have to, if I really find the news of it, then it will be a very nice description. If I don't find the news of it, it will be a nice description, maybe of a nice place for somebody to kind of imagine, but there is no such place because there's no news of such place. Okay, then that's my reality. Now, I pick one section of the surah for verses 10 through onwards. So this is really just trying to see the description very quickly. We will go through. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ. And the foremost, closer to God are, well, they are the foremost. That's my interpretation. They are the foremost in being satisfied. Ulaika al-muqarrabun. They are the ones who are close to God, close to the Rabb. Qalu rabbunallah thumma istaqamu. To me, that's close to God. Where are they? fi jannatin na'im. And I want to again hear a digression. There's a chapter in the Quran, At-Takathur, in which it says, on the day of judgment, the final verse says, they will be asked about an-na'im. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. So again, the na'im are here as news of na'im to come. The na'im or blessings are not only in the hereafter, in the Garden of Paradise. The Quran has plenty of indication to say that you will be asked about the na'im. They will be asked about the na'im. If there's no na'im here, it's only in Jannah, what will I be asked about? So this is, did I see it as na'im or not? That's the question. Did I see that these were news of a coming eternal reality or not? That's the question. Because if I didn't, then this name is not name also anyway. I'm afraid and I am scared. That's why it says La tahzanu la takhafu, because that makes sense to me, because somebody needs to tell me this, because really without this news, I am takhafu and I am tahzanu. I am very sad and grieving and very afraid, and there is no news for any garden, really, for me. In that, if I don't see Naim here. Okay, fi jannatin Naim. So that was a digression to Takathur. So Naim. Naim are here that I'm questioned about. The next one, a good many of the first ones, a few of later ones. ثُلَّ مِنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَقَلِيلٌ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ. This we will leave to the side what this means. We can discuss. Everyone have their ideas. Allah. Okay, now here starts the 5610. Dr. Ali says 5610. Yeah, 5610. Yes. Starting with السابقون السابقون. So here we could start now. Ala sururim mauduna, on decorated thrones. Do you not have any news of sitting on nice places in the world? Well, I have to ask myself. متكئين عليها متقابلين, reclining upon them, facing one another. Here we are on Zoom, loving our face-to-face chat with video. It would be even better if we are in person. You know, couches, chairs, we sit on, face each other, talk to each other. Yeah? Don't you like it? Conversations with friends, don't you have it? Didn't you experience it? يطوف عليهم wildanun mukhalladun, immortal youths wait upon them. Did you see any news of things around you serving you that you don't pay for? They're always there. You have to ask myself, is there news of it? There may not be. You may not have a domestic servant. If you're in Pakistan, you can actually confirm this verse very literally, because you have literally domestic servants roaming about you all the time, serving you. But that's not what the verse is here. Yatufu alayhim. It's a news about this reality. Immortal youths wait upon them. Wouldn't you like it? Are you not someone who likes being served? بِأَكْوَابٍ وَأَبَارِيقَ وَكَأْسٍ مِّن مَّعِينٍ, with goblets and jugs and cups filled with water from flowing springs. Don't you have water that you drink here, that you like enough to want more and more pure and better and forever? Is there not news that you are sustained with all kinds of drinks in this world? Why is the news of goblets and cups filled with flowing springs strange? Why would it be strange? Do I not need it? Do I not expect it? Do I not find it so desirable? لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون, by which their minds will not be clouded and which will not make them drunk. Yeah, I want to enjoy without feeling terrible and vomiting and losing my consciousness. Yeah. وَفَاكِهَةٍ مِمَّا يَتَخَيَّرُونَ. So interesting. Fruits, whatever kind you choose, the choice is thrown into, what if God gives me papaya and I don't like papaya? Fruits, whatever you choose. Yeah, I want to choose which fruit I want to eat. Don't I eat fruit here? Don't I choose? Is there no fruit in the world that I eat? وَاللَّحْمِ طَيْرِ مِمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. And with meat of any fowl that they may desire. Don't you eat meat? Have you never eaten meat or seen meat in the world? Is it not desirable, yummy? Or maybe not yummy for people who have reasons, but leave them aside for now. Animal cruelty and vegetarian, and we can just, it's a different subject. This point, yeah, it is certain interpretation, certain idea of what's happening there. What's the bird? What's the meat? But in general, I find in the world meat, and I find in the world people desiring meat. It's here. I'm one of them. وَحُورُ عَيْنٍ, and companions pure, beautiful of eye. For me, yeah, so simple, so desirable. Companions, beautiful companions. Isn't there in the world the possibility of companionship with beautiful people? There is. As a news, there is. Why is it there? كَمْثَالِ اللُّؤْلُؤِ الْمَكْنُونِ, like pearls hidden in their shells. Again, beautiful things that are rare, that are so beautiful as to be rare and just special. Do I have not news of it here? I have to ask. Again, very interesting verse. Jaza'um bima kanu ya'malun. It is related to what I do here. This is jaza. What I do here matters. What I am doing here, what I see these things, whether I see them or not, whether I got news of it or not, matters. Jaza'um bima kanu ya'malun. La yasma'una fiha lahu wa la ta'thiman. A reward for what they did. No empty talk do they hear there, nor anything that would harm or disappoint. With everything good, with friends and food and companions in this world, don't we find this, I wish there was not this empty talk or these things that I don't like. People talk too much or they worry about too many things and they ruin that beauty of that companionship. But so as if the God says, I know what I have made. So I'm telling you that you are in the way I've made you. Your expectation is no empty talk, nothing that disappoints or yeah, there's news of it in this world. Illa qalilan salaman salaman. But the saying or only experiences of tranquility, absolute and eternal tranquility or peace. This is the description of paradise in these verses. Salaman salaman. What echoes throughout, what is experienced, what is seen, what is lived is pure tranquility and peace. And peace. I have news of it here in this world in moments of peace and tranquility. If I hear the news in them, that in my desire for them is his promise and his news that I have it for you eternally. So that this will not be a strange news of a strange, desirable but inaccessible place. No. The Quran doesn't present it that way. It presents it as an accessible place whose news is heard by those to whom angels descend, and they hear the news, like the Fussilat ayah says, of the Jannah, the garden. They hear the news here. They hear the news here. The Quran expects me to hear the news here. So I asked, where is all this? Zafir, you have a question there. I'm going to read it very quickly. Where is all this? I asked. It seems in two places, here as news and the hereafter as a reality. Depending on how I answer the questions put to me in the verses I've read above, I can see here and now the news of this such a place, the promise of such a place, and what a place it is to look forward to if I can find news of it. The question, does my being offered to drink through sky have anything to do with my drinking in the heaven? That's the Farabi's question, and I will let it stand, and perhaps somebody can comment on it, or Zafir can comment on it. So I end by saying that the Quran is asking us questions to which it is asking us to have answers. When we answer them in the way Quran is saying is the truthful answer, I will hear a news of an existence that will be similar to what I find here, full of sustenance that I find here, full of companionship and comfort and peace that I find here in as news to that realm. And I find these descriptions of abundance, of food and beautiful couches and places to stay, and with friends across to speak with, and pure companions, and everything that I choose without hearing anything that disappoints, eternally tranquil and peaceful, to be really a news worth a, a really welcome news, a really wonderful news for the spirit, and makes me want to confirm this news and to be in such an existence, to find myself hearing the news of such an existence here, and hoping and praying for such an existence after I leave this world, or I'm taken from this world. God's peace be with you all. I will just stop here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So thank you for this beautiful presentation. Let us see if there are questions, comments. Okay, Brother Zafar has raised his hand. Please go ahead, Brother Zafar.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Faraz. Um, regarding my comment, I think you mentioned confirming the news. So along with that, every everything, every news that the Quran brings from the hereafter has to be confirmed here, so that we know for sure that it is indeed good news that we can have security in. So in that sense, if I want to be, if I want to confront a reality of eternal hospitality, I have to see my being hosted in perfect manner here, and the blessings in the hereafter have one-to-one correspondence to what happens here in my mind. if I want to find a new creation in which I am eternally served drinks, I need to get to know the source of that host in the form of drinks here. So he said that we don't want to think about water, where water is coming from. Like we fill our glasses from the tap and then drink, and then we say we satisfied our thirst. That's one way to look at it. The other way is to see the miraculousness of the water being brought to me in an totally unexpected manner from the sky. And if I can get to know the provider in the form of drinks through that providership, then that's the same thing as me planting a seed of the here that grows like a tree who will experience, or who does experience, maybe I should say who does, maybe I should use present tense, who experiences being served drinks in the hereafter. Because I cannot think of my experiences here and my existence here independently from my experiences and existence in the hereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Zafar. Yeah, so again, I will simply say what you described, the Fussilat verse describes the state of the person who is in peace and who is experiencing paradise here, or the news of paradise here, as the one on whom the Maker has descended angels. So that's interesting. The Quran describes it in its language and then tries to explain what is descending of angels. It is peace. So yeah, thank you for your comment.
Brother Birkan, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum again. So one point attracted my attention while Brother Faraz was speaking about water. So you also mentioned at the very beginning, Faraz, like when you were talking about the seed, you said it is possible that none of us, or at least like not most of us, have ever like literally put any seed in the ground. So that's make things a little bit complicated, I guess, when you first read it, like a Quran, as if trying to telling me that when you drink water, or when you benefit from, and let's say when you eat a fruit, a banana or papaya, as if Quran is telling me that, oh, Birkan, do not think papaya is coming from supermarket. So you go to fresh produce and buy some papaya. Don't think that, but instead realize that papaya is coming from trees. Or, when you drink water, don't think the drink water as if it is coming from bottles, but you should be knowing that it's coming from sky. So we could, I guess, take such an attitude, like we enjoy such, sayings, like when we enjoy talking like this, especially making fun of new generations that, they don't know where meat is coming from. They think hamburger is whatever produced in McDonald's, so on and so forth. But I guess what Quran is saying here is something different. Quran is not, calling me to know where papaya is coming from within this earth. Like whether it's coming from trees or it's coming from a market. I guess this is not the point with Quran. Even if you think it's coming from a supermarket, the fact that something you buy from a supermarket, you buy with, you know, the money with some papers, and the papaya itself, like it's a strange fruit, strange thing, but when you put it into your mouth, it gives you pleasure. So with the Quran's, I guess, words, the pleasure that you get, the water you get, it's coming from sky, not from the papaya. So if you are, again, part of this new generation, and even if you think the hamburger, the meat, beef, whatever, it's coming from McDonald's, not from cows, Quran wouldn't be, you know, upset with you, wouldn't be telling you that you stupid, you know, you don't know it's coming from cows. I guess the point with this, that even if you think it's coming from McDonald's, look at what you are eating. You eat a, you know, a piece of matter, you put it into your mouth, and you enjoy. Like, don't you consider, don't you think about this enjoyment, whether it's coming from this hamburger or is it coming from, again, quote unquote, sky? So I wanted to say this because I always made this, you know, the mistake. I just realized that as if, you know, Quran inviting me to know the real source of the things, but still within this universe. And I think this is not what it is calling me.
So before we conclude, as we are coming to the end of our time, if anybody has any comments, please raise your hand. While also listening to this sowing a seed, I was thinking about what is Faraz doing right now. So he is sort of sowing a seed, to my understanding, like within 1.5 hours, definitely he is talking about something that maybe he quote unquote cultivated over years or maybe months of thinking about some matter. But within 1.5 hours, he's just putting some seeds into my understanding. So then I was thinking that, well, how would Faraz think? Or just reversing it, how would I feel if I was to tell somebody? Would I start saying that, well, I told him this truth, and then he started building it up, and then he learned, or his world is illuminated, so do I ascribe it to myself? Or even, I guess, one step further, I ask the same question to myself. So am I growing up my own understanding, and oh, I am studying Quran, and then I am now getting more and more illuminated, it is because of me. So I guess these are very nearby experiences that I'm living in, and I am definitely claiming ownership over these, I mean, in my personal lives. So I guess asking such questions directly, I mean, Quran inviting me to, or challenging me to ask those questions, saying that, are you the one that is growing up this, or it is we who is growing up or building up this plant or this tree of, let's say, truth, as we are now studying for this, as you are sharing the truth that you understand with us. So who is building it up? And I am seeing Sister Umayya Yazıcıoğlu. Please go ahead. Okay, now I guess you can now speak.
Okay, thank you. Jazakumullah khair. I think what I wanted to share might indirectly connect with what Brother Yusuf just shared. In Surah Al-Waqa, verse 71, as Faraz noted, it refers to the fire. Have you ever considered the fire which you kindle? And then the next verse is the one that I used to have puzzlement about, because it goes on to say that, is it you who have brought into being the tree that serves its fuel, or are we the cause of its coming into being? The reason I used to be puzzled about the next one is that I thought, reflecting on the fire in itself is a kind of a very clear indication, a sign that you see the fire is coming out of nowhere, from the wood or gas. This fire comes, and in reflecting in itself is very helpful. But then to shift attention to the tree and ask the question, well, the tree that serves as its fuel, what made that tree? What is making that tree? I used to think that it shifts the attention into what we tend to superficially in everyday life consider as the chain of causes, right? And the whole point of the Quran is to kind of make us question those chains. Normally, if somebody, not normally but superficially, without reflection, when I'm asked what is the cause of this fire, I say, well, it's the tree, right? So the Quran is wanting me to interrupt that and say, well, what is making that fire? Really think again. That's the previous verse. But then the next verse 73 comes back to the tree, and I'm like, we don't need to talk about the tree. We're talking about the fire, and the whole point is that the tree is not the real cause. It's not important, as it were. So what came to me as I was listening is that this is also important because interaction between the fire and the tree is one sign. How is this lively fire is coming out of this wood? That's one sign to reflect on. Another sign to reflect on is the fact that I live in a world where I can't burn anything I want, right? I need a tree, I need wood, I need some sort of a fuel. I can't just say I'm going to take it from the water, right? Or some other material that I would like. And that is in itself worthy of reflection as well, because the structuring of that tree in a way that it would become consistently related to fire coming out of it is in itself is also something that I can't claim responsibility for, or I can't attribute it to blind nature. There's, as a kind of, I know Birkan said that we don't have to have scientific details to reflect on these verses, but one helpful detail that I relatively recently learned is that the way a tree grows, this physicist was talking, and he was saying, you think the tree comes from the soil, but actually this tree is constructed out of the air. Most of the tree comes out of the air. The carbon dioxide, that log that you're looking at is actually a particular, it comes through a particular arrangement of air molecules, and he even called it as kind of storing the sunlight. So the tree that, of course, what I want to highlight is that the fact that the verse wants us to also reflect on the tree out of which I obtain fire. I used to think it's always a veil. The tree is always a veil, because I think fire comes from the tree. But the verse is by calling us to reflect on the tree and how it's structured in such a way that consistently from it, fire is gifted to us, as opposed to something else, is in itself is also worth being at awe of. And connecting indirectly back to what you have said, Yusuf, is that if an insight comes from someone, so the insight is the fire and that person is the tree, we shouldn't ignore that, but at the same time, we shouldn't think that it's really the producer of that insight. It is just another sign to reflect on. A sign meaning pointing to the heavens, to something beyond itself. it's not saying I have a share in this as well. So
Jazakallah khair. Any concluding remarks, whether for us or anybody else?
I guess if anyone else has a hand, time is short, but too much to say. Well, alhamdulillah, thank you for having me, and look for if any other one has comments, closing comments, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, there's Sarah. Please go ahead.
I'll just add that mashallah was a very nice, I'm very thankful. Thank you, Faraz, for sharing. The journey through these verses was very helpful and necessary for me. And I'm very grateful for new questions with new news as I go through, inshallah, my experience with water and all these things that seem very easy to look past. The message that was presented, especially with the last description of this place of Naim, was just so reassuring and so nice, so necessary. And I'm very grateful to have heard that. So thank you, mashallah. I'm very grateful, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so then let's conclude in here then. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.